Hey everyone, it's the Miata DIY guy, and it's post Miata reunion. We got a little bit of track time, though it was very wet. As you can see, it did dry out for a bit of one of the sessions, but before that we did some prep work on the Miata before the track day. Sadly, we couldn't really do a shakedown, but we installed the lower brace, and we were attempting to repair the fuel pump, but we'll get into that later in a different video. But this video is centered around installing the competition motor mounts.
So we're going to remove this 14mm bolt right here that attaches the motor mount to the chassis. But before you do this, make sure you support your transmission bell housing. We opted to use 2 jack stands just for safety measure. The engine will drop a bit because we're going to be loosening it from the chassis, so just be ready to have some supports set up for yourself. We already broke this one loose. So you're going to have to get crafty if you want to enter and remove the bolts from the side of the car. We've removed the wheel, and you can see we can get a straight shot to the top bolt that attaches to the engine block. So for this particular job, we recommend these long extensions for your 1/2-inch drive. They really helped us in reaching those bolts and cracking them. So just a tool for your toolbox. If you do have them, they make this job a lot easier. With a little bit of maneuvering, we got the motor mounts and the bushings out of the engine bay. So in my right hand, this is the one that's been on the car, I assume since it was built in '93, and you can see the difference, how much it's worn down over time if we put them right next to each other. And this is the new one on my left, the competition motor mount. So as you can see, it's kind of like reassembling Lego a little bit. There's a small notch here which matches the mount. So we're just going to insert that like so. And we'll tighten this down with a wrench once we get it all assembled. Now we're going to attach the motor mount guard, this little metal bucket. You can see the holes also line up with these little prongs. So we're on the passenger side of the vehicle installing the motor mount. Now this is a 1993 limited edition which has various extra accessories. Now if you notice, the 3 bolts are different sizes. So the longest one goes in this top hole because it also has to accommodate for a small bracket. The second longest one goes in the bottom right, and the shortest goes in the bottom left. So we're going to show you in a little bit the tips and tricks to get these in, but with enough wrestling you can get, this is the passenger side motor mount in position. Now this car is a 1993 limited edition, so the brackets are a bit different, we noticed from other videos online. So this right here, this bracket I'm pointing at, if you can see, it is the starter motor bracket, and the motor mount actually has to fit one of its bolts underneath. So it just took some wiggling and getting the motor mount in place to line up with the 3 holes on the block and the 1 on the subframe, and now we're just going to reinstall all the bolts. So Amy suggested, and a lot of other YouTube videos suggest, is you put a piece of wood between your jack and the oil pan. Now we were having trouble getting clearance, and I realized there's this little lip right here on the subframe, and the piece of wood was hitting that. So make sure when you put your whatever you want to put in between here, just, you don't want to put the jack right on the oil pan. Just make sure this piece of wood clears that little bit, there's a metal lip there for the subframe. So that enabled us to get the engine high enough to get the brackets in. So thank you, Amy, and other DIYers for the tip. Okay, so now we're just gonna tighten the bolt that goes to the subframe. We're not gonna do it fully tight because the engine's still a bit high. So we need to drop it down a little bit so we can line up the holes with the engine block. So for reattaching the bolts to the block, we're using a 14mm short socket with these extensions. Now we have full access to all 3 bolts and we can tighten them up very easily. Now we have all the engine block bolts tightened. We're going to tighten up the chassis bolt. So with a little bit of maneuvering, we now have the driver's side motor mounts installed and we're ready to lower the car and be all done.
If you have any questions about the install or parts in this video, please leave a comment below. And if you need any parts like the ones in this video, head over to mossmiata.com. They have all the parts you might need from the 1990 Miata to the current generation.